Welcome to the Business Spotlight podcast. My name is Cote, and I am your host for today's episode. And on the show today, we have Dianna Colton, owner and executive producer at Hack Studios, with us. We're going to be learning about her business, her journey to business ownership, best practices, and maybe some challenges that she's faced along the way to give you that inside look to what it's like to run and operate a business. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop episodes like this. Welcome, Dianna. It's great to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too, Kay.
Well, I'd love to dive in. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I am the owner and executive producer of Hack Studios. LLC is Hack Creative in Austin, Texas. However, international. We do a lot of work all over the place. We will be 14 years old as of April 1st. Prior to that, I had a business with a partner called Rebel Rebel for 4 years. So I've been doing this for quite a bit. And prior to that, I worked for actual companies instead of owning a business. We do anything and everything in the video world, and people kind of get caught up in that. But video means motion graphics, animation, filming, like anything from a simple social media post to a feature film. We can do it.
Oh, that's incredible. Well, I'm super excited to dive in, especially to hear about your journey and kind of your why. So let's start with that. What was your why? Why film?
Well, ironically, I got my degree in advertising and communications at the University of Texas. Um, I didn't even realize at the time, I'm not dating myself here, so don't ask when I graduated, that there was a film department and like that was a part of the thing. I got into the advertising world, was working in advertising agency, and got, just by nature of the situation, because it was a small company, got to doing local television commercials, and then kind of just fell in love with the idea of film. Then I moved to an advertising agency in San Antonio, where I was hired as a creative secretary, my first real job. But they had lost their broadcast producer, and I was like, hmm. So I kind of inched my way into that and really delved into film and understanding film, as far as back when it was just broadcast commercials and filming things on 35 millimeter. And then life changed and I ended up getting into I did freelance for a while, working for production companies, which I loved. But this is the days before Google. Okay, let's, you know, so you had to work a little harder and dig a little deeper and ask more questions. So I
Mhm.
feel like I have a pretty granular understanding of what it takes to get things done. And then got into the post-production side of the world later, and now here I am. The why is, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, kind of thing. And I used to always say to people, we're not saving lives, we're selling groceries. I had a big grocery account at that time, and I actually had said that to some young filmmakers. I was like, at the end of the day, when you're stressed out about making commercials or video or anything like that, and this goes to influencers and anybody else that does video these days, because there's a lot, you're not saving lives. You're not a doctor. You're not first responders. Like, chill out. And so I always kind of just took that attitude of like, you're not saving lives, you're selling groceries. So yeah, it's just, I love what I do. So this is why I do it.
Wow, that's like a golden nugget of the conversation already because I think that really helps, especially all the business owners that are watching this, to kind of scale back from that myopic concern and just like look at the business for what it is. And it does take a lot of pressure off.
It does. And like at the end of the day, for people that go into business, I don't care if it's independent filmmakers or anybody else. If you can walk away when things go sour and say, I have no regrets, then you won. It's like you got to go after your dream. And even if it doesn't become like this Sony Picture Studios, it's still the achievements you get and the things you get to do really make your dream has come true. Like you've got to do what you do and you have no regrets. So that's how I feel about it.
Definitely. Well, thank you for sharing that. Looking at your business now today, what does your team look like? Because I know it takes a team for things to happen. So, what kind of team do you have right now, and how many team members do you have?
My immediate team is fairly small because we scale as necessary. We've been anywhere from currently in-house, there are 5 of us, including myself. But as projects are needed, because a lot of people in the film industry are independent, like, so they work, and you can't really consume, like, I can't hire a bunch of directors to sit around if we don't have the work to be done. Like, they need to be out there doing work and learning and growing their skills and craft. And
Mhm.
so we just have, if I looked at it from, I don't even know how many, like I have a tremendous amount of people that I can reach out to. I have a huge reach of people as needed, but in-house, it's just the 5 of us that are keeping things going right now. And we scale as necessary.
That makes a lot of sense because you're probably working project based,
Mm-hmm.
and so
100%.
you're
Which
scaling
is
as
which
you need
is
to.
terrifying and scary sometimes, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, looking at, your ideal client, who would you say your ideal client is and why?
Well, it's interesting. I feel like ideally, advertising agencies are the ideal client, but they're not the easiest client. So, not necessarily ideal. We have worked with, like, the beauty of being small and the ability to be flexible and fluid with things is that we can work with clients of any sort, like from a small marketing agency to a large advertising agency to a direct client relation. We can work with them all. So we don't, like, my ideal client is anyone who needs video work and understands that you have to pay for people's time. It doesn't have to be egregious, but you have to pay for it. And I mean, basically, it's anyone that needs that kind of work. Like right now, we're working on some documentary work and we're doing work for a new brand that's coming out, like a lifestyle brand, unrelated to agencies and marketing people. They have their own other people in place, but like it really kind of just runs the gamut. Like anyone that needs video work in any capacity, from an animated logo to a feature documentary film, like we can do it. So kind of goes
Mhm.
all over.
Wow, that's really cool too to hear kind of like how the flexibility is. Looking at how you market to people, especially to like upcoming clients or even organizing your clients, how do you find success in your marketing and how do you keep everybody organized?
uh Organization can be tricky when you have too many to deal with. We usually do, well, first, let's start with how do we market? We've been blessed to kind of start out with a lot of word of mouth. And then people have found us, and that kind of lends itself. Like usually South by Southwest is a time when we're really reached out to a lot, but we've moved to our 3rd location now. So I'm wondering if like there's been some change up in that. No matter, like marketing wise, social media,
Mhm.
word of mouth, and a lot of reach out like to particular agencies and marketing companies. And honestly, watching some of your previous casts, I was like, huh, there's some people in the area I should reach out to and just say, hey, we're available. So as far as organizing clients, when we have a big load, I make sure that I have enough of the right kind of talent inside, like producer wise. People often question like what a producer does, and me being listed, I'm the executive producer because I'm the owner and I'm the one that makes the decisions. But I also produce, and producing is organization. And when I've in the past, when we've had like fair amounts of clients on the pipeline, I make sure I have the producers to handle it, because one person can let things slip through the cracks, and we don't want that to happen. So yeah, it's really about like just constant communication
Mm-hmm.
and keeping a check on things. Now we're a little slower because this last year has been crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I handled the majority of that, but sometimes even I'll copy some of my people to make sure that I follow up, because got a lot more going on than just producing.
Definitely. And that kind of leads into that organizational component. Like, are you utilizing any like CRMs or anything like that?
To be fair, not really.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's honest and fair because it is. I
we
always want.
use we use I mean, there are internal creative tools that we use, um but as far as other than Google Docs, we don't really, yeah, no, we don't really use a lot of that.
Well, and kind of like looking at, like, say this past year or, in recent business, what has been something that's been like a challenge for you as a business owner?
I mean, that's kind of part of it. It's really kind of lends itself to the marketing side of things, of getting
Yeah.
ourselves out there. We have a new initiative that I've started at the beginning of this year. We are expanding, and kind of creating a new division of the company where we're going to bring on a new roster of talent around the country. And we're going to kind of rebrand that as its own brand.
Hmm.
I'm working with a producer in California that is helping on this. And so, yeah, it's the challenge of, I think there's also a huge challenge in like thinking that small can't do big. Like, I think a lot of
Hmm.
times people look at a boutique-ish, because I don't consider us boutique. We've done humongous productions
Hmm.
around the world, like in Florida. Like I had 200 crew members. Like it's, we're capable of doing that. If anyone thinks for one second that some big production company they work with, they hire all of these staffers, all they don't. They have their core. And so I think that's the bigger issue, is that a lot of people look at us as like, well, oh, you're just this tiny little core of people. And I'm like, no, I drove Tiger Woods around in a golf cart. Like, we've done big stuff. Like, it's not that. It's just that people don't trust, or especially in the film industry, there is it's kind of one of the, and I don't know if this is across the board in all industries, but where like there's a cliquishness to it. The film industry has been historically male driven.
Hmm.
I am a women's business enterprise certified with the WBENC, for years and years. And at one point, the film industry was 3% women.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so, and now we have a change, which I'm not opposed to. Like, I've had to fight for everything I've had to get anyway. It never
Hmm.
really gave me a major leg up to be a woman, because if I wasn't a woman that had other check boxes, didn't really matter. And there's a lot of people that cheat the system. So anyway, but that's another conversation.
That's a yeah,
But
that sounds like a good episode.
yeah,
Um, so kind of taking it back to this initial challenge, like the small can't go big. I want to dive a bit deeper into that and ask you, what are some of the ways you've been like working on tackling that stigma or that misconception, and like how are you working through that right now?
I think a lot of that is proof in the pudding.
Mm.
Like, we've got the work that I can stand behind and speak to every element of to
Mhm.
show that like that's not real. It's just it's like having to be a battering ram to get that through people's heads that just because we're this little company in Austin, Texas, doesn't mean we can't stand up to the big guys. I mean, we have traveled around the world to film. Like we've worked with the BBC, and the last year, like we did a tremendous amount of work with them. And like small means nimble and flexible and easy to get going versus a big over expensed production. Like we can get things done. And that's kind of like the point I make is that we're small in size but big in stature, and like just tell us what you want to do and how much you've got to do it with, and we'll see what we can get done.
Definitely. Well, I absolutely love the messaging that you're sharing. Do you use systems or how do you get the word out to people, or are you kind of, is there a target number of people you want to reach with that message right now?
I mean, we haven't been very great about social media lately because I think that is the emerging channel for people to market because that's where everybody is. That's where they're spending their off time.
Mm.
Um, for the most part, LinkedIn is huge. Uh, we've been restructured. I've been working on this restructure, so I haven't done a lot of that, but yeah, like it's ironic that we make advertising, but we don't do it because it's a weird thing to be like, hey, come use Hack Studios to make a video for you. You know, it just kind of doesn't really work that way. So it's more about showing the work that we've done in the past and showing our capabilities because we've done some great stuff. And people are like, you did that? And I'm like, yeah,
Definitely. It kind of reminds me of the old saying about like the chef who doesn't like the chef that's like a Michelin star chef but goes home and orders takeout.
yeah,
Just don't you're in it. So it's like, yeah, no, kind of like that's what it made me think of for sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, before we get into our rapid fire questions, which is going to be a lot of fun, I want to ask you, where do you see the company going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Hopefully growing. I mean, with this new initiative that we're working on, like I really want to expand. And the person that I'm working with is putting a lot of faith, like it's a leap of faith,
Mhm.
uh, and expanding and growing. Like I was never necessarily focused on growth throughout the 14 years of business, which sounds ridiculous because it comes and it's an accordion.
Mhm.
It comes and it goes. But I'm ready now, like to kind of like, okay, let's grow. Let's
Mhm.
grow. And then if that doesn't work, then we've put it all out on the table. But yeah, I hope for expansion and a West Coast division and potentially anywhere else. So yeah, that's my hope is growth.
And how are you structuring that growth out? Do you have like timelines for things or like have you broken that into micro goals? Like take the big hairy goal, breaking it down into different timelines. Like how are you structuring your growth?
That's pretty much exactly what we're doing. Is like this morning, and well, I'll be meeting with him tomorrow. He's coming in from California. It's like we're moving fast, but we're also strategic. And so it's like we do have micro goals and we just want to get past those. We do have a timeline. I've put a 6 month timeline to see some reciprocity of the investment.
Hmm.
So even though that sounds like a really, it is a short amount of time because you got a lot to get done in that little bit of time, but it also makes people move faster. So yeah, it's micro, it's tracking it all.
Yes, definitely. Well, I'm excited to see your growth, and I'm also excited to now dive into our rapid fire Q&A where I
Oh
ask
dear, let me get some water. Hold on.
It's a lot of fun, I promise. I just ask four questions where you answer very top of mind.
Okay.
All right, question number one is what is a key to success for you?
Loving what you do. I
100%.
mean, I think that's just it. Because if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. That's just it. If you
Mm-hmm.
love what you do every day, you want to be there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like during the pandemic and everything, I wanted to be at work
Yeah. Yeah.
because I love it. So,
Love that. And the second question is, what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
um, dare and be brave.
Mm,
Like, don't think it's impossible. A lot of people think, oh, I can't do this. Oh, I can't do that. Like, go for it. Again, it goes back to don't have regrets.
yeah.
Like, dare and be brave and just give it a shot. You don't know if you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
If you need a video for your web page, I'm speaking because it's my industry of where I come from. Don't assume that it can't be done, and don't hire your cousin's son because he has a new iPhone to do it when he doesn't have the capabilities. When you never know, you might be able to reach out to a company and get what you need. And this goes across, like, whatever it is you need, ask. Don't be
Mm,
afraid to ask questions. That's probably the bigger one, is don't be afraid to ask questions.
yes.
I found that in this industry, when I started out specifically, there were some very young producers. I ran a post-production company that was not my company. And I remember meeting this very young producer who was kind of like clueless. And what I learned, because I forced, as I mentioned earlier, I made myself the producer at that agency I worked for. I was hired as a creative secretary. I had to answer phones once a day a week, you know? So I forced myself in there. And when I didn't understand something, I asked questions, and I would just say, oh, what's a tilt shift? You know, like, I would ask the questions. Don't be afraid to look like you don't know what you're doing. It's so much better than pretending to know what you're doing
Mm-hmm.
and then failing people because you don't know what you're doing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's the bigger ick to me, is like, ask the questions like, what do you mean when you say this? If I send you some information and you're like, I don't understand what this word is, ask me the question.
Yeah.
Like, that goes across the board. And I think all business owners should be that way. It's like the whole idea of gatekeeping and stuff. There's no gatekeeping for me. I
Yeah.
don't care who you are. I will tell you what this business is about.
Mm-hmm. Mm, love that. And third question is, what is a piece of content that you've taken in? It could be a book, a podcast, anything.
Um, I'm trying to think of the name of the book I'm reading right now. My brain is all over business right now. Be here now.
Mm,
Live in the present.
mm-hmm.
And his name is on the tip of my tongue, but it is he's very famous. It's a pretty famous book, and it just talks about living in the present. You can't do anything about the past, and you can't control the future. So be here now.
Is it Ram Dass? Is that no? I looked it up.
No, it is. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong book. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Oh, never mind. I don't want to get off because uh I'll send it in an
Yeah.
email to you later.
Send it to me. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah,
And then our final question is, if you could wave a magic wand and rapidly improve one aspect of your business, what would it be?
clients, more
Mm,
clients,
hmm hmm
big, small, medium. I want we've been around for 14 years, so it's not like we're not doing business, and we haven't. And before that, I had 4 years with another company, so I've been doing this for a long time. I just
hmm
want to see a new variety of clients, I guess. As
hmm
like, I want to work with new people. I want to tell people stories. I want to help them tell the world their story.
hmm
And it's just making people believe and uh, inquire about that, it's just a little tricky. People are just a little scared right now about spending and stuff. And so it's like, it doesn't have to cost. Not everything is a Super Bowl ad.
Mhm.
Not everybody's spending $1 million to make a video. That isn't how it works. And I'm very, very, very transparent about what things cost. And that's just that.
Well, thank you for sharing those rapid fire Q&As. And before we get into our final question, let's get started and get people on your business. How can people find you online?
www.hack-studios.com. We're on social media. They can, so when we moved to this new place, I made the mistake, but at the same time, not mistake. We didn't get a landline, but I have a secondary line to my cell phone, which I have to open up. I always forget the number, and I'm sorry. It's so silly. Anyway, I'll send it, but like hackstudios.com, Hack Creative, Austin, any of that stuff.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Dianna. So excited to connect with you and connect our audience with you. Our final question for today is, what's most inspiring to you today?
Sunshine.
I agree.
Just feeling the sun on my face and realizing that I'm here another day and I'm in the present, and yeah, that I got to do this podcast, my first ever, because I'm always behind the camera, not in front of it. So it's very, it's difficult, but it's cool, it's fun. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you too. It's been very inspiring. Thanks for being on the show today.
Of course. Thank you so much, Kay.